Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
Brazilian Daniel Barosa studied film in Argentina and lives in Los Angeles after 10 years directing documentaries, shorts, and music videos in Brazil. His work has been screened at Sundance, Rotterdam, BFI London, CPH DOX, Mar del Plata, and Bifan. His short Boye de Conchas won the Grand Jury Award in Seattle and is available on Canal Plus in France. His debut feature, Boni Bonita, won a post-production grant from Vision Sud-Est and after receiving awards in Europe was released theatrically in Argentina and Brazil. During his career, Daniel has participated in several workshops including Produe Asud, Eve, Morella Lab, Sine Qua Non Storylines Lab, and the Film Independent Screenwriting Lab. Up next on Celeb Savant, we've got Daniel Barosa. Where in the world are you and how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm right now in Los Angeles, California. Doing good. Thanks for asking.
Okay, so now let's rewind. At what age, whether as a child or teenager, did you think, okay, I want to be in this movie creative world, and how did that journey progress?
That's a good question. I released as very young, actually. I wanted to make films. I remember my father, he gave me as a gift this back in like the 90s, this camera, like a small little toy camera that you would connect to a VCR system, and it could like make movies in black and white. It would record in the tape. So me and like my friends, we were like 10 years old, like 9 years old, making like little films, like with this camcorder, playing around, but I think that's kind of like the first bug, like, oh, I want to tell stories, and I guess the film medium was the best way I figured out how to do that.
So having that understanding at 9 and figuring it out that the film industry was the best way to do it, what were the next steps to becoming professional?
I didn't think I'd actually be a professional filmmaker until like way later. I always wanted to I always loved watching films and I was like writing stories and all that, but eventually like when life kicked in, like adulthood, I went to college. I was studying marketing. I went to university. I studied marketing. I was supposed to work with advertisement. That's what was planned out, what I thought I wanted, but I really didn't. And a few years in studying marketing, I dropped out of college. I was born in Brazil. I was in Brazil back then. And then I dropped out and decided to go to Argentina where I enrolled in a film school. Then I started actually studying film and said, okay, yeah, I'm going to try to do this and try to work with film and figure out a way that could make a living out of it because it's what I want to do, not marketing.
So are any aspects of now being in the industry professionally and making films, are any aspects of it surprising that you did not realize would be part of the process? Or was the studying in Argentina giving you all the foundations you needed?
No, I think the studying it gave me a lot of knowledge and it was great because I got to practice. I was filming, they had equipment, and then you're watching so many films, reading and getting all these creative ideas flowing. But I guess zero aspect of the industry itself. I really didn't learn much about that. It was in Argentina, so I didn't get a sense of the film industry in Argentina. But then I finished, I moved back to Brazil. And I knew no one. I was lucky enough. I had this childhood friend from school that was also working. They also studied film, so we kind of started doing some stuff together. And then I started to understand the industry, how it was there. And right off the bat, it was pretty clear. It's a lot of who you know, networking, putting yourself out there, and really get to know people. It is a people's industry, so quickly I understood it was like that. But it took me a while to learn to play that game, to really start networking and going out and meeting all these people and selling yourself and selling your ideas and kind of working on stuff that you hate because that's eventually gonna get to something that you want to do. So it is a lot of balancing. So a lot of the glamour that you think in childhood is not there, but at the same time, there's still the love, and like you are telling stories, you are making films, you are working with something that's it's a beautiful art.
I love what you said about networking is playing the game, because it is like
Yeah.
playing a game, putting on that smiley face, chatting, telling the stories. I know it's important as well. So now, are you a producer and a director, or you're just a director?
Oh, actually, I do a little bit of everything. I do produce, I direct, I write, and I edit also. In Brazil, with the childhood friend that I mentioned, that we like started like doing some stuff together, like some horrible gigs together in the beginning. Eventually, we like built up our own production company. I still have that going on in Brazil. It's a production company called the Nimbus. We work a lot with like corporate videos, more in the advertisement world, but the irony of it. But and I handle a lot of the post production on that. So, and as a producer as well, so I'm like we're producing documentaries and also producing like branded content, and I'm handling the post production coordination for that as well. Here in Los Angeles, I also work a lot as a freelance editor, so I do edit a lot of documentaries. I've been doing a couple of short films here since I moved to Los Angeles, and keep on editing like all the documentaries. That's something that I used to do before also. And I also direct, which I usually direct is more like my own content. I then feature films in Brazil and then like many short films and a couple of documentaries as well. So and I can have all that juggling around, but I guess that's also something that you kind of like learn while working in the industry. It's really important for you to like have flexibility in like more than one skill set, because it will like everything kind of like adds to each other, and sometimes you'll need to make money for something, so it's good to you have these other skills. You're just working on something while you're developing the project. Development sometimes takes very long time, especially as a director. If you're waiting for your paycheck as a director while you're developing films, you have to have a lot of them like just rolled up happening one after the other. Otherwise it can be kind of like a hard time, financially.
You reference post-production elements. What does that mean?
As a post-production coordinator that I currently now handle in my company in Brazil, basically this branded content, this advertising video for this client. So it was shot, everything's done. Then everything comes to me. I'm handling like organizing who's going to edit it, doing like the bridge between the editor and the client. Yeah, so I'm kind of like organizing everything. Then okay, so the edit is done. Now you have to do color correction. So I'm like getting the colorists on board, sending the materials and handling schedules and sending things sound mix. So that's kind of like the post production coordination that I do. But I also do like post production where I'm basically like I'm editing also. So sometimes I'm an editor in a project, mostly like documentary features. I'm editing the documentary feature, and I'm solely as an editor sometimes in that case. So I'm just like getting the material, doing the edits, talking to the director, to the producer, and adding the notes, and then having everything wrapped up nice, and then for the colorist and the sound mix to work.
So it's sort of like a project manager as well.
Yeah, as a post-production coordinator, definitely you're managing the project because you're coordinating like schedules and other stuff also.
So you've got this various skills, as you mentioned: directing, editing, producing, writing. Are there any of them that you prefer a little bit more than the others, or you like them equally as great?
I love directing, but I also feel like writing, directing, and editing, they're kind of like you're doing basically the same thing in different stages, in different parts of a project. You're writing, you're creating the story, you're telling the story with words, you're putting everything on the paper. And then you're directing, you're basically getting this, you're retelling the story, but now with actor, the missing scene, with the photography. So you're kind of like, you're telling the story again with different tools, right? And when you're editing, once again, you're telling the story, but now with the images, you're putting them together, you're stitching everything up, So you're also retelling the story in your own vision. So as long as I'm working in one of these three areas, especially with fiction and documentary, with like creative content, branded content is a wholly different world. Like, that's focused more on our creative content. So I really enjoy like being in one of these aspects, but I feel like my main skill set is director, and I use a lot of my writing skills and my editing skills to like hone in and do my work as a director.
For the person who may not know, what does it mean to be a director of a film?
A director of film, you're basically the person that's going to ensure the vision, like the story, everything. It's kind of like you're gonna have everything tying together so that it's like a cohesive product. It's something that works, you know. So you're telling the story, you're coordinating all these different areas to unify it into like one single vision. That's it might be yours, it might be someone else's, but you're kind of like you know the vision, you know how the film has to look, you know like the final product. You have an idea. This is what it's gonna look like in the big screen. So you have to be pretty certain of all these different aspects in the film, that how it's gonna look afterwards in the screen, how it's gonna work together. So you have to be like really on top of the writing. If you're not a writer, you have to know the script, you have to know the writer's intentions, you have to know the themes, you have to know everything that's going to be onto the actors, because then you're directing the actors, which is one of the most amazing parts as a director. You're actually like working with that another human being and you're just like doing this exchange, you know, of like emotions and getting the story out there. But at the same time, you're also coordinating with the cinematographer, with the sound designer. You're getting all these different elements there are in film because it's a mixed medium, right? And ensuring everything is there for then in the edit. You're really close to the editor as well, and making sure you're listening to the editor of his ideas and putting them back with your ideas and aligning everything to make sure, okay, this is where I want to get at. Yeah, you're kind of like the you're raising a child, you know, but in all these different elements, you're kind of like just helping it be the best version of itself that it can be.
Okay, so without pointing any fingers or mentioning any names, we know that a lot of
Mm.
actors, there's a lot of ego because in every industry, there's people with ego, especially ones that had a success in promotions or and with actors that have been in a successful show and so forth. So, in your personal experience with dealing with egos of specifically, or even producers or costume designers, whatever, how do you deal with a situation where a person is disagreeing with your vision and wants to allow their vision to be more seen in the way that the production is being directed?
I think it's a lot about like talking and understanding. You know, like filmmaking is a lot about respect and understanding each other's ideas and having that human connection. I think it's very important. That's like pre-production, preparing for the film is always very important. So you're always going to like you will talk to the actors, you will meet your cinematographer, you will talk to everyone and make sure you like the ideas align, you know, and the personalities align. Because sometimes you can have like this amazing cinematographer that people are saying, "Oh, let's work together." People can be super talented, but I mean, it's also very important the human element of like synchronicity, you know, like the synergy between team acting and the your crew as well. If that said, sometimes you don't have the possibility of choosing who you're going to work with. Sometimes it's a project that you're put together with other people. So I feel like it's a lot about talking and like really kind of explaining your idea and listening to the other person's idea and trying to like resolve it through conversation before like it escalates. You know, so I've been on sets where the egos, the ideas, and people aren't like talking like seeing anything the same eye, you know, and it escalates. A set is like a family, but it's condensed in like these few days in this smaller spaces with no time. So everything just kind of like builds up really quickly, you know. So people get acquainted, get friends really quickly, and then at the same time they can start fighting and they can hate each other really quickly as well. So you have to really kind of like get on top of that before you see it that something is not working. You have to really talk. Even as a director, sometimes you're basically like a therapist, like just understanding what's the problem, just listening to the person and okay, I feel you, but maybe let's try this for a change if you want to. And like they just be like really sympathetic, you know, and empathetic as well.
Focusing on the non-branded stuff, let's focus on that. Now, what's the difference for you between being or participating or collaborating on a documentary, a short film, and a longer film?
That's a great question because yeah, they're very like each is their own unique art form and they're very different in every sense. I mean, like for example, for a documentary, when I'm on board as an editor in a documentary, the documentary usually is something that's much more. You have to be much more flexible, and many times in a documentary, especially like in a feature documentary, sometimes you have like this plan, you have the script, right? You have like the ideas, the questions where you want to get at. But I mean, you're you don't know the answers, you don't know what's going to happen. It's a lot of, you have to be ready for like improvisations and a lot of unpredictable stuff that will happen. And then you're really kind of creating the film and edit. So as an editor in a documentary, you're almost like creating the story from scratch, with all this material and finding the threads, and finding the characters sometimes. And then, oh, this person we were interviewing, this was supposed to be the main character, but sometimes it isn't. And as a director, also doing documentaries, you have to be really open and really sensible as well to like understand what's happening here, and should I go after that, or should I stick to this original idea, or like really adapt and just be able to like the sensibility to find the story with what's happening at the moment, like real time almost, right? And as for like and short films, well, short films, whereas it's very specific medium, which I love directing and editing as well, because I think that the short films, because it's like a short medium, kind of like the risks, the stakes are lower, so you can really experiment. You can really like go out there, really can try different stuff. The best short films are the short films that really kind of like go outside the box. You just really experimenting on your ideas. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I guess like the short film is the medium where you can like rediscover and reinvent a lot of like languages and concepts. While as the feature film, I think the feature film is a whole different beast, where you have to like be really in tune and prepared in every sense. Like a short film, a script, of course, you have to like have a script that's really well tuned and like really well thought out. But sometimes you don't that much, and it can work in a short film because you have space to really like try new stuff. But for a feature, you have to really understand what you're doing. You have to like really think it out, because it's an endeavor that's going to take months, and it will show in the results. It's really hard for you to like let's wing it, for 90 minutes. And it shows afterwards in the results.
What is the length of a short film? From what to what? What's the maximum a short film can be?
A short film, it can be like 30 seconds if you want, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. I mean, there are like 1 minute short films.
Okay.
Yeah. So it can be as short as you want. It depends. Sometimes, like some countries will consider anything under 30 minutes a short. Some countries will consider anything 15 minutes under a short. I'd say like a short film can go until like 30 minutes, 20 something minutes. But there's kind of like that sweet spot where it's kind of like 15 minutes is the perfect time for like, if you can tell the story in 15 minutes, maybe you should reconsider if it's something large, if it's maybe like an episode, a TV episode, or if it's even like you need a feature to really expand on it in it. So a short, ideally, like in 15 minutes, you could be able to tell the story. You might need a bit more sometimes, or you can tell in less. Sometimes just like a crazy concept. 1 minute short is also really fun.
What can you tell us is coming up over the next period of time? I know it's all very secretive in your guys' world. So what can you tell us is happening over the next period?
Well, I've been working on many projects. I've recently been working on a documentary feature that I was an editor. It's about the war in Sudan, but also about like war trauma and overcoming war trauma. So there's a very beautiful message in it, and so that's a film that I'm really excited to see coming out soon. When it's now going through like post production, so there's all that aspect of it. And I'm working on a new short film that I will film soon, the second semester. I have another short film that I did last year that's going to premiere very soon in the festival here in Los Angeles. So I'm really excited about that as well. And I'm also working on a fiction feature film, which is a feature version of a short that I did previously that was in Sundance. And the feature version now we have already had some partners. We are preparing a co-production with Europe, and we're starting getting the financing. So I'm really excited about shooting that tentatively second semester next year. So not secretly, all these projects are happening, and not that many secrets, but I mean it's a lot of stuff happening. And yeah, I'm very excited about it.
You mentioned financing a film. What does that mean?
Basically, finding the money to pay for everything, because film is a collaborative art, and there's so many people involved. But that also means there are so many expenses involved, and it's really, the equipment is expensive. You have a big crew, right? And even sometimes you're like DIY filmmakers, you're like doing everything like with basically no money, but you're still working with a lot of people. So even if you can pay these people, you still have to like also like have the structure. You have to like feed everyone. You have to like organize everyone. So it is a lot of expenses. A feature film, there are so many wide budgets. here in the US, for example, I've heard a lot of like micro budget films. People are doing like films with $200,000, $500,000. It's a micro budget film. Like a low budget film in the US would cost like between like $1 million to $8 million. And then you have like the big budget films, which is like more like 30 million upwards, 50 million, 200, and 500 million when you're going high up in Hollywood. The finances of it, you're basically like finding all these different ways to finance a film, which can be through private investors that want to finance the film that then can recoup it afterwards of the release. You can have like different like government funding in a lot of countries, especially like in Latin America and Europe. They have a lot of like government programs that fund films as well. Or you can also have different like labs or workshops that have like prizes and awards also can help you finance your film. So there are so many different mechanisms to finance a film because it is expensive.
Okay, so I've noticed a lot these days that, especially, you know, in Hollywood, when a movie, especially big budget movies come out, and then it doesn't make the estimates of so many millions in the first weekend, and then they consider it a flop because it didn't make this amount of money. It's about the content and about the passion and about the journey of that end result. It's about how much money are they make on, you know, the first weekend, and if it doesn't make this amount of money, it's considered a flop. And what are your thoughts around this whole discussion?
I mean, I really work on the independent film landscape, so it is a different like mentality, but I also understand like because like the Hollywood like big studios, it's a different concept. It's of course there's the art, there's the entertainment, but it's a business model, right? It's a business deal. So like if a company isn't making money, if a product isn't making money, it's considered a failure. So they are working on a different math, you know, on a different like goals altogether. But when you think about it, you have this film, and the film costs like $200 million, and they're gonna basically spend like double that again on marketing, you know, to get the film out there to like advertise the film. So you're thinking about like a half a billion product, you know, that took like what 6 years on the making. If this doesn't at least make like 3 times its value, I mean, you might as well just get the money and invest it in a bank or something. It has to be really worth the risk financially, you know. So and they were working with this model where you're like trying to like make a profit, right? And of course, you get like the smart people in Hollywood that know that it's not just, of course, there's the money, but if the story isn't good, if the script isn't good, if the idea isn't good, if it's something that people will relate to, it won't make money. You know, you can shove as much money in marketing, but you have to like hook the people with the characters and the emotions, right? With the story. So that is a very important aspect that people are forgetting many times, especially in Hollywood. I feel like independent filmmaking, you have the financial aspect of it. Of course, you want to make a product that can like that pays for itself, you know, that people are like making money, and you want to also like to touch people's lives, you know, where it's I think the art that's in it, in a way, it's kind of like more transparent about it. Like I feel sometimes like if a film can be like a flop, like independent film can be a flop financially, but it has kind of like almost this cult following, you know. It has all these people that love the film because it did touch many people's lives, and that's like a success measure as well, because it is an art form that will live there forever, you know. It will move people in all these the different generations to come, and it is a beautiful concept to think about it.
Yeah, for me, I mean, for me, there's so many movies that are considered on the top 20 worst movies of all time list and all this nonsense. And for me, it's like one of my top 20 favorite movies. So like, it's just different people's taste. I know it's a very long process to get a pitch and financing and get the movie going. There are a lot of doors closing during that process. For you, how do you keep going once doors keep closing? I know you've got all these other branded content stuff. Is it a way of you keeping busy in other things that allows you to say, okay, well, that door's closed, but I'm busy with these other things? What are the other aspects for you that allow you to keep your positivity as doors close?
It is hard because, I mean, I feel like working in film, you have to be really prepared to a lot of rejection, you know, because if you think about it, I mean, there isn't enough pace, it's hard for you to get a film out there. It is like if you shot a film, be it like yourself with a phone, but you did it by yourself. I mean, it is such a huge endeavor already because it's such a big task and it's so hard. But you're gonna get so much rejection because there are so many tastes, and it is like it's something that it's hard for you to like please everyone, right? So you have to be prepared for rejection. I feel like each like 100 rejections that I get, when I get like one person, like one like honest reaction to something that I did, that's enough already to like overcome all the rejection. Just fill up with like this energy that you need to like keep doing this. I had like films that didn't do that well on the festival circuit, or like I didn't like really travel, but like they got a lot of rejection. But then there's one person that saw it and came up to me and said, "Whoa, right, this reminded me of this or this moment that I had with my grandmother." So there's like this,
Yeah.
it takes this person in a way. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, so yeah, that's what I needed, sometimes. So I feel like as an artist, it's amazing for you to be able to tell your story, but it's even more amazing when you relate to other people and you're connecting to other human beings. So, and this is what gives you like the energy to like move forward, I guess. So, and eventually you start getting used to all the closed doors. I mean, someone slammed the door in your face, like, yeah, okay, I've seen that before. Let's go on to the next one. And you just get used to it. And I think that's the best way to go on about it. You can't take it everything personally because otherwise it is really hard.
How important is the festival circuit in the movie world?
I think yeah, it's essential. For independent filmmakers, it's part of it. It's like the heart of it. And even for if you want to like break in the industry, want to like do TV or you want to work on Hollywood, the festival circuit is where you're going to start at. That is your best entry point. Of course, there are many different ways to get in the industry, and some people do there's so many different paths you can take. But the festival circuit is kind of like I think the main one, the one that works the best, right? You have the festival circuit is all these people in love with films, in love with stories. So the curators, everyone that organizes festivals are people that are really there for the art of it, not just for like you have some festivals that are trying to make money, but it's super transparent. You can see right off the bat, in these festivals, they don't go far. They really like die really young. The festivals that are there for the art, or the festivals that keep enjoying it. And it's this hub where you're bringing along all these different people with the same passion, with the same drive to make films. And you're connecting with all these different people. And from there, you're going to get inspired. You might meet people that will help you like get ahead in your career. You'll find your audience as well. They will find the right film for their audience, because each festivals, they have like their kind of audience. So they are looking for types of films, they want to screen, because it's kind of like they already an idea of what they want to represent, what themes they want to talk about. So I feel like the film festival is kind of like it's the heart, of filmmaking.
I've heard that a lot of specifically Hollywood producers and studios, they are requesting simplified scripts, because now the television and the movie is the second screen because people are so busy on their cell phones. I mean, it drives me insane. In my mind, they should make the scripts more convoluted, more intense, more thought-provoking, so that people can put their cell phones down. They shouldn't be making them simplified. What are your thoughts around this?
I personally, I think I hate the idea. It's almost like you're basically saying, "Oh, what I'm making isn't good enough, so I might as well make it easier for the person to digest it." But that's not the idea. And when you're making good enough, people will want to watch it. Like I myself, I've been in a situation like I'm watching something that show, something that okay, I'm not that age and I'm not engaged with it, and then I get distracted, I get my phone, but then I stop watching it, and then I'm gonna continue watching with my phone on because this isn't engaging enough. So I might as well spend my time in something else. When something is engaging, you won't bring your phone up. Okay, so sometimes you just want to like answer messages and you want just some background noise. Okay, so make content that basically, oh, this isn't like a series. This is basically like noise in the background if you want to while you're on your phone. But this isn't a film. This isn't a series. A film, a series, a show. You want to tell a story, right? the answer isn't to make the story worse, it's to make the story better. So you have people not getting distracted. And then if you want to market something different, okay, so and this specifically, this is the show for people, for you guys that don't want to watch. It's something that's basically
Yes.
a lot of good looking people sometimes walking around. You can look up, oh yeah, that's nice, and then you go look up on your phone again. But and then it just make clear you're doing something different. You're not doing film, it's a different medium, I'd say.
Yeah,
It's TikTok.
exactly. So, Daniel, the podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message, what would you like to say?
Thank you for having me here, and thank you for doing this, talking about film to people all around the world. I hope we can continue going to movie theaters. You mentioned about some people having phones in movie theaters. That's kind of like that's the worst case scenario you can have, because the theater is the place where you're there, especially because you don't want any distractions at all. So that's where you don't want your phone in. So, but I love the idea that you're like promoting this podcast and just like bringing film to people around the world. Yeah, and if you have an idea, if you think of making films, you don't know how to start. Now the good thing about nowadays, you can just grab a phone and just start filming something with some friends or like or yourself. So I think at the same time, we have all these different things happening in filmmaking that's making it harder for like the shows or things, everything to be financed or happen. But at the same time, we have all these different like tools to be able to like film by ourselves and just tell our stories the way we want to. So if you want to tell a story, just like do it, like grab your phone and do it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.